everybody, it's Romania Black, and so guess what? We're on episode 7 through 9 of Kuroko's Basketball. I am having a lot of fun with this series, and just based on everybody's comments on YouTube now and Patreon, y'all are having fun with it too. What I like about this series is that it's not like the traditional, like it's very sports anime where there's this characters and there's some tropes that are being lined out, but it does so in kind of like a fun, goofy way and like a dynamic way, and I'm really all about it so far. I'm all about this sports anime that's very wholesome and fun and just like does not take itself too seriously. It's like, nope, we're gonna have fun with this. We're gonna ship the hell out of everything. I'm excited. Y'all know I'm ready to ship everybody together. And so I've really enjoyed everybody's comments so far. I didn't really have too many to note about. However, there was one person's comment that I wanted to touch upon some things I think we need to address before we get in episodes 7 through 9. And that was Moth Green Applesauce on Patreon, talking about how, I know some people have said in the comments, it might have been Caitlin V saying that they were like the Skittles of anime. And I was like, yeah, okay, Midorima is green. And then Moth pointed out that the ki in Kise means yellow. And I'm like, okay, so it's literally a bunch of Skittles. That's literally what we're dealing with. Right? And so I liked also that Moth pointed out that Midorima, the jerseys for the team that he's on, they're orange. So it's like orange and green. It's like a carrot. I'm like, okay, so if he's a carrot, does that mean that is Kise a lemon? That would kind of fit his personality a little bit, right? Or maybe a pineapple? A pineapple would fit as well. But I liked that. And so Kuroko, getting to know Kuroko as he is not just a quiet character, but he does have a competitive side to him. He does want to win, but winning isn't everything to Kuroko. He wants to have fun and play basketball as well, which I think is really cool. I like that. I don't know if Moth meant for this to be a comment, but they were like, yeah, Siren is pretty passive-aggressive. And I was like, passive-aggressive, huh? They're passive-aggressive. Yep. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's funny if you meant it to be funny, and if it's not, it's still funny. So yeah, Siren being passive-aggressive, it's very important, right? But yeah, I liked that. And then getting to know the astrological signs. So we found out Kise is a Gemini and Midorima is a Cancer, but also found out that Hyuga's a Taurus. Hashtag Taurus life. I think some of the second years are all Tauruses. I'm like, good. But Kuroko's an Aquarius, which I was like, oh, cool. Because there's not a lot of, there's been some people in the Discord be like, there's not a lot of protagonists in series that are Aquariuses. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Which my best friend is an Aquarius. So I was like, no wonder I like Kuroko. And I have friends that are Cancers and Gemini, so no wonder I like Kise and Midorima, right? But I don't have very many friends that are Leos. So Kagami being a Leo is interesting. And I wanted to bring up, because I kind of think horoscopes are fun, bringing up the dynamics of Aquarius and Leo. So they're going to be our astrological spotlight for this set of episodes. So as far as intimacy and sexual compatibility goes, according to zodiacsign.com, it says that the attraction between Aquarius and Leo is great in opposing signs, and the greatest between Leo and Aquarius. And Leo being the king of the zodiac sign, and Aquarius seems to be there to bring down the king and fight for independence, which I was like, that's rather interesting. And so their intimacy and love life could be a struggle, a fight, and an incredible experience for both. And I was like, and it goes into a lot more detail with that. But as far as trust goes, I thought this was interesting, especially given Kise's warning back, in episode 5, where he said everything seems to be in the clear in a relationship between Leo and Aquarius when we look at it from a distance. However, these signs represent the axis of Neptune's exaltation and fall, and they will almost always have the challenge of trust and the search for truth in their relationship. They could find an incredible understanding and freedom for both partners, but when they separate, they realize how little they actually have known about each other and how little trust they shared in the first place. And I was like, oh, so maybe that's going to be some drama down the road that Kagami and Kuroko, they may have some trust issues down the road. Foreshadowing, perhaps. And then finally, in terms of like communication, it talks about, and emotions, it talks about how when Leo falls in love, the entire world can feel it. Like they're completely like they're born a hero and sometimes doesn't even know it. I'm like, that fits Kagami great. And then I'm talking about how Aquarius doesn't need to understands the necessity of change, and they carry around a spark to ignite and excite any possible situation they find worthy. And I was like, yeah, that's Kuroko in a nutshell in the last set of episodes. Kuroko was like, yeah, I needed change, and the Generation of Miracles wasn't giving it to me. So him inspiring Kagami with like the chalk drawing outside and everything, I'm like, that's Kuroko, that's Aquarius. So I was like, oh my god. So yeah, if we get any cool ships, I might have to do an astrological compatibility to see what they're like. But I was like, man, Leo and Aquarius, huh? That's kind of pretty on the nose so far. I was like, okay, awesome. So what we gonna do with that? But yeah, I'm really excited. We're doing episodes 7 through 9. Zero Anti-Zero also noted, and I thought this is really important to bring up too, that we're like only 6 episodes into this entire 75 episode multi-OVA and offshoot series, and we're already to our first tournament. This series don't mess around. I told in the reply on Patreon, I was like, I think that this series anticipates and has you as the audience with the understanding that you know what basketball is. Like Slam Dunk, if you've ever read or watched Slam Dunk, they spend in Slam Dunk like 9 volumes getting you acquainted with basketball. They spend like the first 9 volumes explaining the rules of basketball, how it works, the positions, how everything in the game goes, like the strategy. They spend so much time setting that story up from the start. This story, we didn't even go what the positions were. We didn't even go over that. They have it like under their names, but like they're a point guard or that they're a forward, but we don't explain what that means. They're like, you know what that means, right? And they don't even go to how the tournament works. Like they just assume that you've probably watched Slam Dunk. You know how this song and dance goes. And so there is a part of that that's kind of refreshing because I've gone through that with Slam Dunk, so I've already learned that. So going into this kind of knowing, I'm like, okay, I don't need to hear it again. But if you went into this series with no knowledge of basketball, you might be wondering how in the world this game works. So maybe we'll get that as we go. Maybe it'll be something that they'll touch base on, but I thought it was pretty interesting that we're already to a tournament. And the basketball tournaments in anime and in general are a lot different than like a single elimination tournament. So it adds a different kind of stakes. Like you have in like a baseball or volleyball where it's single elimination, one loss and you're out of the entire tournament. Here, it's a little bit more unpredictable because you can win one game, but if you lose another, if the other teams win both of their games, it kind of shuffles things around in a very different manner. It makes the stakes not necessarily better or worse, but different. So I'm curious how we're going to do this. But yeah, so we're going to watch episodes 7, 8, and 9. I'm super excited. I hope you all are too. But let's not waste any more time, shall we? I'm probably going to watch the intro for the first episode, and then we'll not watch it for episodes 2 and 3, and then I'll go back to the ED and take some screenshots of the end cards, and if there's anything extra with the ED. I've been told the EDs in this can be a little spoilery, so I'm going to be careful. But I'm probably going to go back through and watch the ED at the very end and then go from there, like we've been doing. So, we're going to start episode 7 of Kuroko's Basketball, the basketball in which Kuroko plays. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go! Oh my gosh, so we have a cliffhanger. Oh man, this series gets better and better, and the 3 episode sets get better and better. And man, okay, so when we get to episode 9, and I've got some things, I've pulled it up. I didn't write any notes on episode 9 because I wanted to pull it up and walk through it, but I did leave notes on episode 7 and episode 8. We did have 3 amazing end cards that I want to go ahead and show you all. The changes in the EDs weren't anything crazy. There was a change in the first episode where Midorima, it shows him like going up to shoot, and instead of the frog toy he had from the first encounter, now it's the lucky martial arts bear. It's like, oh my god, the lucky bear. Midorima is I like that Midorima has rubbed off on other members of the Generation of Miracles because now Kise is all into horoscopes as well. I like to think that Kise was inspired by Midorima, which we'll talk about with the end card for episode for episode 8, because when Kise shows up to watch the game, the end card for episode 7 is just some of the second years. It's really cute. I like the end card a lot, but the episode 8 end card, I like to think that Midorima has rubbed off on Kise enough that now Kise is all into horoscopes, because the episode, if I don't ship Midorima and Kise, but that end card's really cute. It's super shippy and cute, even though I'm not really into the Midorima Kise ship yet. But that's freaking cute. I love that. I love that Midorima's like a tsundere. As his teammates call him a tsundere, he's like, I am not a tsundere, says the tsundere. And I like Kise is just a diva, and he's just like, wears everything out in his sleeve. I love Kise. Kise gave off such Oikawa vibes in this episode. Like him and Kasamatsu showing up was just like Waizumi and Oikawa showing up in Haikyuu to watch the game and make commentary on it. It was exactly like that, but I'm here for it. And then I have to say, even though I like Kise and Midorima in that ED card there, I think my favorite end card is for episode 9, and it is of the crane game that Kuroko and Kagami are playing. And I wanted to pull it up here because I want to make note. I'm just guessing. I don't want to know answers, but I could be right on this. Obviously, we have this big monstrous lavender looking doll there. You can see Hyuga. You can see all the players of second years. You can say Kise's number 7 with the blue jersey on, right? We've seen that in the OP. We've seen that Midorima has the little orange uniform on, and that's what they're going to pick up. They're going to pick up Midorima. Like he's the one they're facing next, so they're going to pick him up out of the crane game, right? I'm going to take a wild guess though and say I figured out which ones are the 3 other Generation of Miracles. We know the one guy has fiery red hair, like Kagami. I'm going to guess he's the one in the corner right below Midorima that we can't see his jersey. We just see his red hair. I don't know if the black jersey is supposed to belong to him or if his jersey is out of sight and we can't see what color it is, but I'm going to guess that's him. The guy with the blue hair and the number 5 in the black jersey, I'm going to guess is the other Generation of Miracles guy that we think we might be seeing this season based on the OP. And I'm going to take a wild guess and say that the pink jersey in the back, the pink number 2 jersey, I'm going to say that's the purple-haired guy. I'm going to say that that's him. We just can't see the purple hair. I'm going to say it's them, but that card's my favorite. I like that Kuroko is like not using the crane game. He's just eyeing it. You can see his hands on the glass, and Kagami's like, am I going to have to drop money on this? That one's probably my favorite, but the end cards are really, really good. So yeah, these 3 episodes were great. What I like about it is it just keeps building off of itself and building in new ways. So like Papa's team, Shinkyo Academy, in episodes 4, 5, and 6, we built them up to be like this big threat. And then episode 7, it's like, no, they're not at all a threat. Papa was just really big and tall. But once we got past that, they weren't a big deal. And so it's like, yeah, he's not hard. The team's not hard to get around. They even benched Kuroko. And at that point when they benched Kuroko, I was like, okay, clearly we have things under control. But everybody has an ability on the team. Like in episode 9, they talk about how Izuki's ability is his eagle eyes. Like he can switch from first player to third player mode, right? And so he has eagle eyes. And Hyuga is the mental core of the team. I'm curious what Mitobi's quality is going to be. I guess we're going to see. But Kagami can jump. Our boy's got the Sakuragi genes. He can jump, right? And Kuroko, I like that we get like a little subtle preview of him thinking on Kise's words, like thinking that eventually Kagami's going to outgrow the team. But I don't know. I feel like Kuroko's going to have that in the back of his mind because Kise's planted that bomb there. But I don't know. I feel like Kagami is always going to be around Kuroko, want to be around Kuroko in the team. So we'll see how that holds up. But it's a nice little foreshadowing there, right? But yeah, Kagami has a really good game. They managed to win 51-60, and they put Kuroko in at the last minute, being like, we don't want to take any chances. They're like, we don't want to risk it. And then at the very end, Papa asking them, being like, I want you guys to keep winning so I can eventually come back and beat you. And it's like, and he gets drug away. It was really cute. So yeah, okay, here's the thing. We get a little bit of basketball lore sprinkled in this set of episodes. Finally, they're just like, oh, maybe we should talk about this. Like we haven't mentioned that if you get 5 fouls, you're out of the game. So we'll mention that now. And they talk about like defense and different strategies. So they're starting to incorporate a little bit more lore of the game, just to remind you if you happened to have forgotten. But in Slam Dunk, unlike, it's kind of interesting because in most sports anime that I've watched, it's like every game mattered. every game was important. And even in some of like in Ace of the Diamond, for example, there'd be a couple games that we'd breeze past, but it would at least take up like half a chapter or a couple of pages. Yeah, in Slam Dunk, it was like I remember in that series, we won like one hard game and then we skipped like 3 games. And I was like, whoa, we just breezed past those? Oh, okay. And then got to like the serious games and I was like, I guess because like with basketball, it just, it's more the strategy and like the mental fortitude. It's like the play area is not very big, right? And so we just kind of breeze past a couple games. And it does so with here. Jitsuzen, yeah, they got an easy win there. Kuroko didn't even have to play that game. And they beat them like 100 and something to 41. It was like, woof, not good. And then Kinga, the game was easy too. The guys and then I love that Meijo, the third team that shows up, are the guys that are OT3 beat up in episode 5. That was hilarious. I actually loved that. I love they show up and they're like, oh crap, it's you. And we didn't even spend any time on that game. I guess it's kind of interesting that in another series, I could see that have been a big plot point of like, we're going to get revenge on you and blah, blah. No, these guys were terrified of Kagami and Kuroko, which is absolutely hilarious. But, of course, we get established who the kings of Tokyo are, the top 3 teams. And the last several years, I think they said a decade, it's been the 3 teams that have just gone all back and forth, which is kind of like Slam Dunk. In Slam Dunk, it was the same thing. There were 3 teams that went back and forth all the time. And that's the same thing here. And of course, our school isn't one of them, right? So we had, from the east, you had Shitoku, which is where Midorima is at. We have the north is Seho, which is where Tomiko is there. We'll talk about him. And then from the west, we have Shinshinkan. And that's not Kise's team. So I'm guessing that might be the team that the dark blue-haired guy is on. So curious. But yeah, they've faced Seho and Shohoku in the past, and they may have to face them in the same rounds if they make it to semifinals and finals, which is, of course, that's how it works, right? But I love Midorima. Midorima just walking on the court holding this little bear. Like he's just walking along with it in his hand. Like I like that the captain was like, the coach said you can only get your way 3 times a day. Which means that when Midorima first joined the team, he got his way a lot. And the coach was like 3 times. 3. Lucky 3. That's all you get. And Midorima was like, these are acceptable terms. But him walking around with the bear and he holds the toys the exact same way. What a card. But it's said to balance his misfortune. Did he not have a little lucky charm at the semifinal finals game because he was supposed to get good luck today? He didn't need it to balance out his misfortune? Maybe Kuroko needs a little charm. Maybe Kise will go grab him one and give it to him before the game starts. But okay, I do want to make note because Midorima seems infallible, right? They make the note that he never misses a shot. He's infallible. He's the greatest shooter ever, blah, blah, blah. But Kuroko does phrase this in a way that makes it seem like there is a weakness. He says that if his form is there, he never misses. If you throw him off his game, there's a chance. So maybe that's going to be the strategy, is Kuroko being like, we need to figure out how to throw him off his game. And that's going to be hard since he has great luck today. So what do we do with that, right? But yeah, so the captain seems nice. The captain for Midorima's team seems like a nice guy. I like him, number 4. He's like their other best shooter. He's like, he gives off vibes of like the captain of Sakuragi's team in Slam Dunk. He gives off vibes, Akagi. He gives off those vibes, which is interesting. But yeah, I love that Kagame's just like, I'm gonna go stir stuff up. Like he just walks over and says hi to Midorima. And I love that Midorima's like, I don't know who you are. True tsundere behavior. And the teammates are like, you know who he is. You've been obsessing about him and Kuroko the last week. And he's like, don't worry, he's a tsundere. And Midorima's like, you don't know me. But he is. And oh my god, Taiga Kagami, just drawing his name and number on Midorima's hand. Like, the balls on this man. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And Midorima's like, really? And then I like that the captain seems to try to shut Taiga down. The captain of Shohoku's team is kind of like, just tries to shut it down, being like, or Shutoku, not Shohoku. He tries to shut it down, being like, look, we beat your team 141-45 last year, so we're not easy people to trifle against. 141 to 45, that is abysmal. That is a loss. That is earth-shattering how bad it is. Like, at that point, you're 100 points in the lead. You just give up, right? At that point, that's insanity. But Kuroko being this source of, like, positivity where he's like, hey, he's like, yeah, that's in the past. That's last year's team. He's like, you can't measure how we're going to do this year compared to that. Like, that doesn't make any difference. And Midorima's just like, I don't like you, Kuroko. And the teammate's like, yeah, he does. He just, doesn't want to admit it, right? So I like the coach that only lets Midorima get his way 3 times a day. The captain and Midorima, they are really good players. And then we established that we have 2 games today. Two, of course, semifinals and finals are in the same day. Why wouldn't they be, right? And everybody's kind of like, that's the one thing about Siren that's kind of interesting is that they're easily downtrodden at first. They're just like, and Kagami's like, I didn't really pay attention to what's happening. And Riko's like, are you kidding me? But at the very end, Kagami's like, no, it's going to be a challenge. And I like that. I want a challenge. And Kuroko's like, I like a challenge too. It's like, yeah, Kuroko and Kagami both get fired up by the challenges placed in front of them. And they're both competitive just in different ways. Or have different ways of expressing that. So it's really interesting. And I like that Kuroko and Kagami were like, let's do this. So episode 8, I like that we see Midorima takes the finger wraps off whenever he gets ready to play. Like he has them on there. And we cut back to the idea of only speculating about the past and calling Midorima tsundere. And so we come back to the high school. And Kuroko, I do get worried a little bit that Kuroko doesn't eat enough because I'm like, that little tuna sandwich doesn't look like it was cut at all. And like, Kagami's sitting there with like a horde of sub sandwiches. I felt like he was going to reach over and like give Kuroko one and be like, you need to eat it. Like, and they're sore today, right? Riko, best girl Riko, she has a way of sneakily getting them in because yeah, when you're sore, you don't want to overdo it, but you also want to let those muscles rest, but you also want to keep like working through it to help build that muscle, right? So she's like, you know what? I can't carry these boxes by myself. Could you guys carry them? Making them do like a low impact walk that's letting them build muscle without necessarily straining themselves too much. So I'm like, I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there, girl. It all makes sense. But yeah, so Midorima and the other player, I don't remember what his name. He's not the captain, but he's one of the other players. And so they talk about that one guy on Shotoku's team. He doesn't even think. He thought that Siren would have no chance. He was like, "Oh, we're gonna play Seho, so we need to get ready for that." Midorima's like, "Okay." And the boxes that the captain for Siren Riko was having had games, like CDs of games, like different DVDs of all the played games used for scouting, used for practice, used for running drills, strategies, things like that. And so I really thought it was cool how Kuroko and Kagami watched the same DVD, it seemed, that Midorima and his captain or his other fellow player watched. I thought that was cool that we see them both watching at the same time. That was really neat. But God, Kuroko sneaking up on those lockers. I was like, as soon as he had the locker door open, I was like, when he shuts it, Kuroko's going to be standing right there. And he was, but I'm like, I need to go back and rewatch and see if that was a trick of the angle, like that Kuroko was there. We just didn't see the whole frame. Maybe that was it. But yeah, so of course Seho is like the best defense of the 3. That makes it very curious because that makes me wonder what Senshinkan can do. And I don't want y'all to tell me because I know we'll find out. But you have Seho is the best at defense. You have Shotoku, who seems like they're going to be really great at offense. So then what does the third school do? Are they a mix? Are they a strategy? Are they like Tendo? Are they guest monsters? I don't know, right? We don't know that yet. But I thought that was really interesting. And so the best defense in Japan. And okay, so we got a flashback of the Generation Miracles, which I was like, oh, we get flashbacks of them. Poor Kise. He wasn't joking when he said he got bullied. Like, we only saw like a minute of their flashback, but a few things established. One, Kise and Kuroko seem to have always been very close because Kise and Kuroko were like next to each other, and Kise was like, Kuroko, I'm getting bullied. And Kuroko's like, well, just pass the ball to me. So they seem to have been close. Kise was not lying when he said he got bullied by the other Generation Miracles, because Midorima's like, you're a loser. And he's like, And then we had one character with a real nasally voice, Kise-chin. I was like, which one is that? Which one is that? I don't imagine it's the blue-haired one. And I don't imagine it's the purple-haired one. Seems like he has a deep, mysterious voice. Could be wrong, but in the OP, he just seems deep and mysterious. I'm going to guess it's the red-haired one. He's like, Kise-chan. Which makes me wonder, like, what the heck? What's going on? So, yeah. Or maybe it was just a random Generation of Miracles player. Who can tell? But, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then poor Kise getting bullied. And so we get introduced to Tomoki, Tomoki! So, Kuroko mentions he played him in middle school. Didn't even remember Kuroko, so why are we surprised? But, Tomoki, he's very intriguing, because at first, I was like, oh, he seems like a best boy. He seems like just a real good, he's baldy, but he's like a real good defensive player, and he works real hard and everything. No, he's kind of a jerk. I was like, oh my god, he's really arrogant. Like, I was really surprised, because, like, there's a character similar to him in Haikyuu, that he's from a rando team. They're not one of, like, the best, like Seho. He's not from a powerhouse school, but there's, like, a shaved head character in Haikyuu that kind of has, like, a really good defense. He seems like a best boy. He's not a prodigy, but he worked really super hard to get where he was at. And so at first I thought that Tomoki would kind of be like him, but he's not at all. He's like kind of arrogant and is like, I'm the best at defense. It's like, dude. And he kind of has a loud mouth and doesn't know when to shut up. And he says some things that are kind of rude. And you're like, dude, what the heck? But Tomoki. And so everyone is warming up together. I like the idea that all the teams are warming up together. And so Midorima and Shitoku can see the other teams. They can see them. And everyone's glum in the locker room. In the locker, I put LR there. Yeah, everyone. One thing is that, man, Siren, they really hit themselves hard. Like, they are hard on themselves. Like, there's some self-loathing at times with this team. Because in the locker room, everybody's so glum that they're facing Seho. And Rico's like, what the heck is this? What is this nonsense? And the second years talk about how they felt so bad after losing that they nearly all quit because they weren't happy and they hated it. And I'm like, holy cow. Like usually your senpai are like, they're like, everything's fine. We overcame our struggles and we're right as rain. But here are the second years, even though now we know that they're gung-ho and they want to win. And episode 8 and 9 kind of exemplify that. Now that we know that. But at the very beginning of that locker room scene, they're like, yeah, we nearly quit. And it's like all of them. I'm like, oh my gosh. But then again, this is a brand new team. They just formed like a year ago. So them getting like beat up and glum, they don't have a reputation to uphold. They don't have a legacy to maintain. They're just they're starting from the bottom. Now they're here. And so it would be easy to just say, well, let's just give it up while we can, while we don't have much invested in it, right? But I like that they stuck with it and that they were honest in the locker room about their feelings. And another thing I really like about the series, just gonna say it, but Rico offering each of the guys, she'll be like, I'll give you guys a kiss on the cheek if you win the game. Here's the thing, what I appreciate so much about the series as a female viewer of this sports shonen anime is that they could have done this. They could have had her be like, I'll give you guys a kiss. And then all the guys get super blushy and they're like, oh, and do all that. No, they're all like, we really don't want you to kiss us. I was like, good. I was like, yeah, they're all like, no, coach, senpai, we're fine. Want to make note though, Hyuga instantly to her defense. They might be an OTP for me. Rico and Hyuga might be an OTP for me. Perhaps, knowing now that their voice actors are like Yona and Reiner, I'm all about it. So I really liked that. But yeah, I liked that her little gesture for the kiss was like turned down hardcore. Everybody was like hard pass. Kuroko and Kagami are like, do you know us? It was great. And then Kagami. So Kuroko and Kagami. Now again, Kuroko gets like the string instruments, the dramatic music with him. He's in the shadows. Ennui is on maximum. And he's just like, I've hated basketball before. And Kagami's like, I never have. I love that. I love that Kagami's like, no, I don't. Never hated basketball. Always have loved it. Always having a good time. And Kuroko's like, you're sweet, sweet, simple summer child. I wonder if Kagami will get to the point where he thinks he hates basketball and Kuroko has to like pluck him out of that pit. I don't know. I don't know if we'll get there or not. But Kuroko, I feel like the Kagami, he knows that Kuroko's there for him, but he wants the second years. He wants this win for the second years, so it can be like their revenge game, right? Which is really good. But yeah, and then of course, Kise and Kasamatsu show up. Of course they do. They're like Waizumi and Oikawa. They just show up to watch the game, right, as a pair. And so I honestly got, like, when they pulled up and reading the horoscopes and Kise was like when he turned to the camera and he was like, I'm really feeling bad for Kuroko because he has a bad horoscope today. I'm like, oh my God, it could not be more apparent that Kise has it in for Kuroko. Like, it's so apparent. Like, his reactions in the stands during episode 9, I was like, are you joking? Are you kidding? But yeah, and Kasamatsu's just like, oh God. But yeah, so we find out that Seho's big strategy, the reason why they're such a different team, is they incorporate martial arts into their playing. They incorporate martial arts into their playing style, like how they run, how they play defense, how they do offense. They incorporate martial arts. And I feel like Kagami kind of gets fired up after that. I feel like Kagami is one of those characters that once he figures out that there's a way to beat an enemy, if there's a possibility, he runs with it. So the moment that a weakness has been identified, Kagami's like, we got this. We can do this. They're just human. They're just high schoolers. We'll just outplay them. And I do like that message the show gives us that, yeah, these are just high school kids. They're not superheroes. They're not, have crazy special powers for real. They just have their own individual talents, but they are humans at the end of the day. They're just high school kids playing one another. I like that message, right? But Kagami needs to be fired up. Kasamatsu notes that. And then Kagami's like, well, then fine, I'll just outplay him. I'll just outplay Tomoki. It's totally fine. And that shot of him and Kuroko at the very end when they look back towards the camera. What is this? What is this nonsense? What is this? Speaking of what is this? Okay, going back to episode 9. I'm glad to know that there is some of the budget for this anime being saved up for Midorima. That opening shot with the basketball close-up and then it cuts to like Midorima has Haku Spirited Away style flowy hair and has like the shadows and the lighting and everything in the animation. I'm sorry, what? What? That was beautiful. And I feel like they're saving all their budget for Midorima. I mean, man's gotta look good, right? But that was just like the lighting, the sweat and dust particles in the air. What is this series? It's great. I love it. And yeah, it just looks like he's so beautifully animated there. And even the other guys are like, it's just great. But he was only put in for the first 5 minutes. And they already had like 12 to something. And he's like, and when he gets to the ground, it's like he's getting in the zone, right? He's getting in the zone. His form is perfect. He's got it to where he can hit the ball perfectly. Like we got an insight into Midorima's vision for a split second. That's 3 in a row. And then he looks so beautiful, like his hair just flowing. God, they animated him really well in this episode. And he's just like, And he's like, Captain. And he says, oh, you're finished already. He's like, yes, I have a feel for it. So, okay. So Midorima has to like warm up and get a feel for the court and be like, he has to get his bearings. And then he's like, okay, I'm fine now. I'm set to go. I've got the preset ready. Because they're already like 3 minutes in or 5 minutes in. It's 16-2. Yeah. And so he just subs out. And Kise is like, really? Yeah, I just love that he's like, man, taking it easy, huh? I feel like Kise is the biggest supporter of Kagami and Kuroko. And he's going to be like, get that Midorima, get him. I'm ready for Kise to be there and like, I'm just waiting for him to like lean over the balcony and be like, don't give up, guys. And they're like, Kise, why are you here? I'm waiting for it. OT3. So into it. And then, yeah, I like that Kasamatsu's like, well, their opponent's not that tough. Why? They don't need to use him. They just need to get him in there and get him warmed up. So, okay. When I saw the image of Siren and the little scoreboard they show us, it's only there for a split second. When I saw that, I honestly thought the score was like 6 to something, and I thought the game was over. I honestly almost thought that like they lost the game because he's like, oh, if there's going to be any, it'll be over here. I really thought that when we saw that 6, that it was like a score and not a timer, and that Siren was going to lose. I was like, are we really? I thought we were instantly jumping to like the next game. I didn't realize that both games were going on at the same time. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that Midorima's team's game and Kuroko and Kagami's team's game was going on at the exact same time. I thought we were like jumping back to the future and then going back to the past to see how Siren had lost. And I was like, no. So I'm glad that, I mean, that fake out was well done. But the game to win. And so, yeah, Kagami's getting really mad. Kagami has a temper. His problem is that he fouls a lot. I do appreciate that this series makes a big deal about fouls because, to be honest, in Slam Dunk, like, people were fouling out left and right, and they were like, well, I guess they're out of the game. They fouled out. I mean, hell, one of the characters, his whole character arc is that he fouls out like half of his first games, and it's just treated like, well, he fouled out. Okay. I like that that's not the case here. In this point, Siren cannot afford to lose Kagami because he's like one of their best players. So they have to keep him in. And so Kagami's anger kind of gets finally brought to the forefront. But man, Tomoki, he doesn't make it easy for him. No. Yeah, no. And he fouls, and Hyuga's like, quit fouling! He's like, it's his third one already. Hyuga's like, what are you doing? And Tomoki, he's just one of those guys that can bait him. When you play basketball, there's just some people that are really good at baiting for fouls. They like reel them in. They're like, oh, they trick people, right, into fouling them. Although the slick floor, that did not go the way I thought it was going to go, and it went even worse. But we'll get to it. He's like, is this one of their special martial art techniques? And so, yeah, Kise is like, I thought their engine was really going, but it's not been able to move anymore. And I love that he's just like, I just want them to do really good because they're like my new besties. I want Kise to hang out with Kagami and Kuroko all the time now. I love Kise. I want him to hang out with them. He's such a diva, and I love him. He's like, and Kasamatsu's like, oh God, what are we doing? So Kasamatsu clearly knows about all the martial arts stuff, just like Riko, just like her. And Kise, he's like, well, you know, they may have special players, but Siren's got their own. And it just zooms in on Kuroko. I'm like, Kise, you're fooling no one. What is this? So, okay. So they go get the ball. And Tomoki, it's 15-6, right? There's a 9-point difference. And Tomoki just bumps into Kuroko. What made me mad was that he bumps into Kuroko. And Kuroko's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, Kuroko, you do not have to say you're sorry. You did nothing wrong. You were standing there. He's the one that charged at you. You should call a foul on him. He charged, not you. And Tomoki's like, oh, it's you. He's like, have you been playing this whole time? Tomoki's just kind of annoying and a jerk and is arrogant. He's like, I'm Kuroko Tetsuya. I forget his name. His name's Tetsuya. He's like, I've been here the whole time. And Kagami and Hyuga are like, you played him in middle school and you didn't know who he was? His presence is so small, he doesn't remember him? But Tomoki is just like, he's just kind of a bitch about it. He's like, oh, you're a first year. Oh, did you know? And then Tomoki, like, rubbing salt into the wounds. Like, he couldn't just let sleeping dogs lie, right? He, like, tells it right in front of the second years. He's like, last year our team was ahead of yours by 20 points in the first quarter. And Hugo's like, really? We're going this route? Really? And then you see Matobe and Izuki like, are you kidding me? Because he's like, I want to make it 30 this year. And they're like, really? And he's like, oh, don't let it get you down. And Kuroko, we don't see his face. We do not see his face. It's like, oh my God. Kuroko's like, fine. Oh, I won't let it get me down. No. He's like, I'll make sure I'm not disappointed. Like, we don't see his face. And I'm like, nope. Here's the thing about Kuroko. He's like, he's always got this like resting bitch face like the whole time where you doesn't have emotion. But we never see like what his happy face looks like. And we don't see what his mad face looks like. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm just waiting for the day we do see it. And I'm like, We're only 9 episodes in though. It's way too soon. We got 3 seasons of this to get through, right? It's too soon. But yeah, I will make note, the one guy on Seho's team, I'm sorry, I could not escape it. I'm watching Death Note at the same time. Guy looks, number 5, looks like Light Yagami, except he's not as hot as Light Yagami. So he looks like you know, you have like a name brand, and then you have like the supermarket version of it, like the Walmart version of it. And then you have like your even like lower version of it, like Clover Valley, or like instead of Dr. Pepper, it's like Dr. Thunder or something, or like Big K Cola. And I feel like he's that version of light. Yeah. He's that version of Kise, because Kise kind of has a light vibe. Yeah, he's like that. He's not quite there. But yeah, I want to know Matobe's secret power. I know we're going to find out. He's my lucky number 8. I'm secretly rooting for Matobe. I like Hyuga. I like Izuki, all right. But Matobe, he's that strong, silent type, and I have a feeling I'm going to like him as we go through the season. But Hyuga's my man. Hyuga's a fellow Taurus. We got to stick out for one another. I'm here for it. But yeah, it's just like Kagami he's getting worked up over and over again, right? And I love that Kise is like, what is this pass? Kise is just so excited to see like Kuroko doing the special pass. Like, who tapped it? Someone? Who knows? Like, nobody sees this guy with bright blue hair on the court. And I just love that Kise is like, yes, Kuroko. And Kasamatsu's like, oh my god, really? The iron wall of Seo's defense has never seen the pass from inside their wall before. He's just like, he's so got the hots for Kuroko. It's so funny. But yeah, so they're all doing really well. Everybody's doing actually pretty good. And then they're tied at the first quarter, which is amazing. And the captain for Seho, he's like, yeah, I heard this little shit on our team was talking smack to y'all. And Hyuga, I like the Hyuga as the captain. He takes the lead and he like handles things. And he's like, yeah, he was taking it. But you know, it brought back memories. At first, he's like, it brought back memories of last year's trauma. But we're over it now. It's fine. We're tied with y'all. We got this. I'm like, yes. Just, I love it. I love the vibe. It's so good. And the captain's like, okay. And yeah, what I like about this episode so much, and then we have our shot of the 5 players, and they look like a damn boy band. Here's the thing, they look like a boy band. Matobe, Hyuga just looks like a best boy. He looks like a Boy Scout. Matobe's in the back looking like, Matobe looks like Zayn Malik from One Direction, who's clearly like the best singer of the group, but the one that cares the least. That's his look there. I know Matobe cares, but that's just what his look is. Izuki's over here like, could be a model. Kuroko actually is a model with like wiping the sweat off his face. And the Kagami like wants to try to do it, but just is too glum to make it work. I love it. I love these 5. They're fantastic. But yeah, what I like about this episode so much is that, one, the first years, specifically Kagami and Kuroko, are not the end-all be-all decider of the games. Because that's so refreshing. Because honestly, like in Slam Dunk, Sakuragi is the main character, and him and Kaide, Kaide, Rukawa. Him and Rukawa are kind of like the end-all be-all, and the series makes them out to be like, well, yeah, our senpai are strong, and they're game changers, but we really need Sakuragi and Rukawa to win the games. We need to really rely on them. If neither of them are there, we're screwed. But what I like about this series, especially with this episode number 9, is that our second years kind of step up and they're like, we haven't been doing nothing this past year. We've lost, and now we've been practicing for a year to make up for it. And we just also happen to have these amazing first years that have joined us as well. So that's fun too. So yeah, it's just like, what I like about this is that they acknowledge the fact that, yeah, no, we've been working hard. Don't get us wrong. We know what to do. And it's like, oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love that they like, let the senpai, do their best, right? And show you guys how it's done. And the one captain for Seho is like, don't underestimate them. He's like, the worst thing we can do now is underestimate our opponent. They're kind of the opposite of Shitoku, where the one guy, he might have been the captain for Shitoku, was like, Seho, they're not a big deal. We got this. But Seho is like, no, we can't underestimate them. That's what's making them tie with us. So I'm obviously thinking that, obviously say that Siren's going to win over Seho. And then that's going to be like Midorima and then be like, oh. Now, do I think that they're going to beat Midorima? I don't know. I don't know. And make it to the league? I don't know. So I can see them not, but we're not there yet. We gotta get past Seho first. I wondered if the coach, he said Imamura. I wondered if the coach was related to Imamura, like if they were father-son, maybe, because they kind of look a little similar, perhaps. It's interesting. And then Rico, meanwhile, is like giving the pep talk to their team and having them go. And then, yeah, the pass under the legs from Kagami to Kuroko was great. That stuff's hard to do. So I was like, I'm here, live all day for it. It was clean. I liked it. And Kagami just loves to dunk the ball. I love that Matobi got to dunk too. That was a lot of fun. But okay, so, and then we have the light, like the shadows and light with Kuroko. I'm so curious to see how Kuroko is going to go up against Tomoki. So curious. That's going to be really fun. The passes, though, the animation was really smooth these episodes. The passes were great. I liked those a lot. For some reason, the CGI net and rim is what it is, but I don't mind it. But, okay, so the sweat. Here's the thing. The sweat on the floor. The sweat on the floor. We got the foreshadowing of when Kagami kind of slipped and fell and, like, brought himself back up, and I was like, oh, don't get hurt. I thought that their mission was, Seho's mission was to make Kagami, like, wear himself out. I thought what was going to happen was that Kagami was going to slip and fall and hurt himself. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that Kagami was going to slip and fall and hurt himself, that was like a little preview of it, and that was what's going to happen. And so, and then I love that Tomoki's like, these two can work together and do that. And he's like, where'd number 11 come from? And we go from number 11 to Kise being like, my man! like he's just messing up his hair, being like, I can't believe this. And Kasamatsu is like, oh, okay. Kise is like just the biggest supporter of them, and I am absolutely in love with it. I'm in love with it. He's like, they're even more in tune than they were before. And it's like, oh my god, Kise. And then the one thing bothering Kasamatsu is all the sweat and the fact that they're getting wore out. There's too much sweat for the second quarter. Yeah, we're not even to the halfway point of the game. There's too much sweat on the floor. Too much. And they don't clean it up, which is interesting. Usually they like get somebody to clean that mess up, right? But so anyway, I don't know what the deal is with this one guy, number 5, the light Yagami sampler platter, but he is like all very handsy. He's like all over Tomoki and like getting all up on him. I'd be like, get off. I'd be like, no, we're hot and sweaty. No. I used to be like, in my PE class, we had to have like jersey buddies. I'm from a poor school, and so we didn't have enough jerseys for PE. So when we switched sides, we had to switch jerseys. And my jersey buddy was a guy named Chris. And Chris's jersey was like, he just sweated through it. Every PE thing. He was a guy that sweat a lot, and when we played basketball or football or whatever, he'd sweat through it, and he'd be like, here you go. And I'd be like it just, so that idea of these sweaty guys like all over each other like this, no. I'm like, sir, quit being handsy with Tomoki. I don't like Tomoki, but you need to quit being handsy with him. And so, yeah. But they are like, Kagami's overpacing himself, isn't he? Your plan's working well. Yeah, Kagami's getting worked up. He's getting too tired. He needs to slow down. My dog wants me to throw that toy. And so Tomoki's plan, they're like, he needs to suffer more. These guys are like masochists. They're sadists, yeah. Tomoki is a sadist. He's like, no, And so then this is a dick move. I'm sorry, but the whole thing where he fakes the charge, dick move. No, he's like, they're not pressuring me at all. Are they trying to stop me? I don't know what they're thinking. And he's like, I'll just go through to the hoop. And Kuroko and Hyuga realize instantly what they're doing. They're like, no. And he made himself fall. He gave himself enough distance to where he could slip and fall and make it look like Kagami did a charge. Again, they're throwing us these terms and fouls and immersing yourself into it. But yeah, in playing basketball, there's people that did that all the time, and it drives me nuts. I'm like, no! Boo! I hated that watching that. I watched a lot of basketball games because my mom coached it for years, and I'd just be like, I'd be the one standing being like, that was a faker! And so 4th foul. And yeah, they make the foul trouble seem like a really big deal. Because yeah, Kagami's like one of their big scorers. They need him to be able to stay in the game. He did do that on purpose. And when they showed like the light shine, he's so unapologetic about it. He's just like, yeah, I did do that on purpose. I'm like, Tomoki, not a fan. Not a fan. No. And Kuroko's just like, you're getting worked up. And so, yeah, she makes a substitution. And she actually substitutes them both out, Kuroko and him. But what I love about this is that Hyuga's like, no, that was our intention. What I love is that from the locker room scene, it seemed like they were glum and they didn't think there was a chance of them winning. But the fact that the second years all got together and said, no, we're going to sub both them out because we want to win the second half for ourselves. Against Seho! Against one of the major schools! What? I freaking love it. I love it. He's like, no, we're going to do it. He's like, we're going to do this. And so they're like, look, Midorima's being saved. We're going to save you two, which shows that they believe that they can make it into the finals. I love it. And then Kuroko's like, let's do what he says, Kagami. He's like, I trust our seniors. I trust our senpai. And Kagami's like, well, fine, I guess I do too. And Hyuga's like, we'll beat Seho. I love that Izuki and Hyuga and Mitobe are like, we got this. What up? I love it. Mitobe with the glum face where he's like, it's so good. It's so freaking good. And Hyuga being like, you need to shut your mouth, you braggart. I was like, yes, Hyuga, shut him down. Shut him down. It's interesting because Hosoya, this was done back in 2012, which has been 10 years ago. Hosoya's voice, you can clearly tell watching anime now that Hosoya is in, his voice is so much deeper because he's older, right? I wonder how old Hosoya was. How old, let me look that up real quick. How old was Hosoya? Let me see, like, Hosoya voice actor. Yeah, Yoshimasa Hosoya. How old is he now? He is, let me see, he started doing voice acting in 2006. He's 40 years old. He is 40. Oh my God. I know Hosoya was 40 years old. Holy cow. So he was 30. He was around 30 when he was doing this series. Interesting. But his voice is so much like raspier and deeper now in a lot of the roles that he plays. But he was also Sosuke in Free, but even in Free his voice was a lot deeper. Like honestly, I usually can tell Hosoya's voice like right off the bat. But in this series, it's actually, if I didn't know it was Hosoya, I wouldn't be able to tell it was him. Curiouser and curiouser. But yeah. So, I like that the one captain for Shutoku, or the one guy, he's like, oh, they're throwing the game because they benched their first year miracle pair. And Midorima's like, no, this is a strategy. They're saving them. And it's like, Midorima knows what's up. And I felt like in episode 8, when the one Shutoku guy was like doubting Seho, Midorima was like, let's not doubt them. Let's not jinx ourselves, shall we? And so I like that the Seho captain's like, you're underestimating us. And Hyuga's like, no, we've been preparing for a year to beat you all. And so Kagami and Kuroko, you can tell they both like, they want to be in the game so badly, especially Kagami. He's like, and then I love Riko's just like, quit looking so serious. Trust your senpai. They got this. It's okay. And they each have their special talents, right? So one can, like Mitobe can do a hook shot and he can dunk it. And then we see that Izuki has like the eagle eyes. Hyuga, he's the mental core. I like that they're like, well, do the other first years, do they have special abilities? Or Kagane, do they have special abilities too? And Riko's like, yeah. I feel like Hyuga, Mitobe, and Izuki are the main 3 second years, but she's like, yeah, Kagane, he's got a power. He can shoot from anywhere. He just doesn't always make it. And I like that Kagami's like, that just means he's normal. Like, it's not a special ability, right? And she's like, yeah, sure. The eagle eye. And then I love that when Izuki has it, there's that really cute animation where he's running behind him. He's like, that's a nice shot. And he's got like the little blushy face. And he's just like all happy about it and waving like looking cartoony. And Hyuga's like, give it up. Quit being like that. So then what did she say the other one's ability was? It was rebounding. I always forget his name. She's like, yeah, Kagane can shoot from all ranges. His accuracy just sucks. His accuracy's so. Kagami's like, okay, that's... And then we see that when he rebounds the ball, I forget his name. It's Tsuchida. Tsuchida's good at rebounding. And they just keep going back and forth. I do love the animation where it's like, it's so bad and they're all like, all the team members are like, it's kind of embarrassing. But then Kagami gets knocked out. He gets knocked over the bench. And I really thought that they were going to put Kagami back in at first until Kagami got really like upset, being like, oh, put me back in. And I'm like, oh, no, you are too hot-headed. You will get fouled out. You are too hot-headed to be like this during the game. And I love that Kuroko just like puts his face up in Kagami's face. He's like, I'm going in. And then he puts his hand over Kuroko. These two, what are we going to do with them? He's like, the guy with 4 fouls should stay on the bench. And Kuroko says that he will go in and face Tomoki. And Hyuga's like, all right, fine. Another first year to first year. Let's take him down. I'm so intrigued. He's like, I'm going to get revenge for my friend by proxy. He's like, I'm the substitute coming in to get revenge from a friend because he's too hot-headed and he'll probably get fouled out. I'm very curious to see how Kuroko will handle this. What he will do. How will he manage this? That's what I'm very curious about. Like, how you gonna play this up? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, Kuroko? How's this gonna work? I'm super curious, but yeah. So that was really exciting. I really enjoyed these 3 episodes. I'm very curious to see how our boys are gonna handle. I'm gonna say they're gonna beat Seho because we gotta face Midorima, but how's it gonna end? How is Kuroko gonna battle Tomoko? What's that gonna look like? And then what are we gonna do from there? So yeah. All right, so we're going to do episodes 10, 11, and 12 next week. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with more of Kuroko's basketball. Bye.